Welcome to our channel. Today, we pause to remember a life that touched hearts and left a lasting impact. We'll explore their journey, the challenges they faced, and the moments that made them unforgettable. Join us as we honor their story, celebrate their legacy, and reflect on the memories that will continue to inspire and live on in the hearts of those who knew them. There was a time in America when families gathered quietly around a small black and white television set. The world felt slower then. Evenings were simple. And in living rooms across the country, one bright smile became part of the family. Her name was Lauren Ann Chapin. To millions of viewers, she was little Kathy Anderson, lovingly called Kitten, on the classic television series Father Knows Best. With her wide eyes, gentle voice, and natural charm, she captured something rare and pure. She did not just play a role. She became a symbol of childhood innocence during television's golden age. When Father Knows Best first aired in 1954, American families were searching for comfort and stability in a changing world. The show offered that comfort. It told simple stories about love, respect, and family values. And at the heart of those stories was young Kathy, curious, honest, sometimes mischievous, but always sincere. Lauren was only a child when she stepped into that spotlight. Yet there was something deeply natural about her presence. She did not seem to act. She simply was. Her laughter felt real. Her tears felt real. Viewers saw their own daughters and sisters in her. Growing up on camera is never easy. While other children played freely outside, Lauren worked long hours under bright studio lights. Scripts had to be memorized. Scenes had to be repeated. Expectations were high. But she handled it all with a grace far beyond her years. For 6 seasons, audiences watched her grow. They watched her lose her baby teeth. They watched her mature. They watched Kitten slowly become a young lady. And in many ways, America grew alongside her. But childhood stardom often carries a hidden cost. When the show ended in 1960, the applause faded. The lights dimmed. And Lauren faced a world very different from the one she had known. For many child actors, the transition into adulthood can be painful. The roles become fewer. The attention disappears. The identity that once felt secure begins to shift. Lauren's life after fame was marked by both struggle and strength. She faced personal challenges. There were difficult seasons. Moments of hardship that tested her spirit. Yet through it all, she remained open about her journey. She spoke honestly about the pressures of early fame and the emotional toll it had taken. In time, she found new purpose. Lauren turned toward faith and motivational speaking. She shared her story not with bitterness, but with hope. She wanted others to learn from her experiences. She wanted young performers to understand both the beauty and the risks of early success. Her voice, once heard through scripted television lines, now carried the weight of lived experience. And still, for many, she would always be Kitten. There is something powerful about the first generation of television stars. They entered homes at a time when the medium itself was new. They became part of family routines. Their faces were not just seen, they were trusted. Lauren belonged to that special group of pioneers who helped shape American entertainment. Her passing feels like the turning of a final page in a beloved chapter. With each loss from that era, the golden age of family sitcoms feels a little further away. The world has changed. Television has changed. But the memory of those quiet evenings remains. Somewhere in old photo albums and archived recordings, a young girl still smiles brightly in black and white. She still tilts her head with curiosity. She still delivers her lines with perfect timing. And in that moment, she is forever young. Lauren Ann Chapin grew up before the eyes of a nation. She experienced the beauty of early fame and the weight that followed it. She stumbled. She rose again. She endured. And through it all, she remained a part of America's shared memory. Her life reminds us that behind every child star is a child. Behind every smile on screen is a real human heart. Today, as we remember her, we do not only mourn the actress. We remember the feeling she gave us. The comfort. The innocence. The warmth of simpler times. Lauren Ann Chapin may have left this world, but Little Kitten will forever live on, flickering softly on old television screens, reminding us of an era when family stories brought a nation together. In Hollywood, some names carry weight before a child even learns to speak. Robert Carradine was born into one of the most respected acting families in American film. The Carradine name was already part of cinema history, carried by his father, John Carradine, and later by his older brother, David Carradine. It was a legacy filled with stage lights, long scripts, and powerful performances. But Robert's journey would be different. He did not chase loud roles or dramatic headlines. He did not demand attention. Instead, he moved through Hollywood with a quiet steadiness, carving out a path that was entirely his own. For many, his defining moment came in 1984, when he stepped into the role of Louis Skolnick in the comedy film Revenge of the Nerds. At first glance, the film seemed like a simple college comedy. But something unexpected happened. The character of Louis, intelligent, awkward, underestimated, became a symbol for an entire generation. In a decade filled with action heroes and larger-than-life leading men, Robert Carradine offered something different. He played the outsider. The thinker. The young man who did not fit the traditional mold of popularity or strength. And audiences connected with that. Louis Skolnick was not loud or physically imposing. He won through persistence and belief in himself. For countless viewers who had ever felt overlooked, that story mattered. It was not just comedy. It was validation. The success of Revenge of the Nerds turned Robert into an unlikely cultural icon. Yet even then, he remained understated. Fame did not transform him into something he was not. He continued to approach his work with quiet dedication rather than ego. But his career stretched far beyond one role. Over 5 decades, Robert appeared in films and television projects that reflected his range and patience as an actor. From historical dramas to westerns, from independent films to network series, he built a body of work that was steady and thoughtful. He may not have always been at the center of the poster, but he was often the steady presence holding scenes together. Being part of a legendary family can be both a gift and a burden. Expectations follow closely. Comparisons are constant. Yet Robert never tried to compete with the shadows around him. He understood that legacy is not about imitation. It is about contribution. In interviews, he often spoke with humility about his career. There was no bitterness. No need to boast. He understood the unpredictable nature of Hollywood, the highs, the quiet years, the moments when roles simply do not come. Through it all, he remained committed to the craft itself. There was something deeply human about his performances. He did not rely on grand gestures. He found meaning in small expressions, a glance, a pause, a subtle change in tone. It was acting that felt lived in rather than performed. As the years passed, the face that once represented youthful rebellion matured into that of a seasoned artist. Younger audiences may have discovered him through reruns or streaming platforms. Older fans remembered the first time they cheered for the underdog in a crowded movie theater. His passing feels like the closing of another chapter in a changing industry. The generation that once found its voice through characters like Louis Skolnick is now older, reflective. The comedies of the 1980s feel like distant echoes from a different cultural moment. And yet, the message remains timeless. You do not have to fit in to matter. Robert Carradine's life in film reminds us that heroes do not always look the same. Sometimes they are quiet. Sometimes they are unsure. Sometimes they lead not with strength, but with heart and intelligence. He was born into a dynasty, but he chose individuality. He embraced a role that could have been simple parody and turned it into something lasting. And over decades, he proved that influence does not require noise. Today, as Hollywood continues to evolve, his legacy stands as a reminder of a more personal era, when characters felt close, when underdogs were allowed to win, and when thoughtful performances quietly shaped a generation. Robert Carradine may have been called a reluctant hero. But to many, he will always be remembered as the unlikely one who stood up, believed in himself, and showed others they could do the same. There are some players whose greatness is loud. And then there are those whose greatness is steady. Mike Wagner belonged to the second kind. In the 1970s, professional football was raw, physical, and unforgiving. Stadiums shook with noise. Helmets clashed like thunder. And in the middle of it all stood the legendary defense known as the Steel Curtain, the backbone of the Pittsburgh Steelers dynasty. Mike Wagner was one of its quiet guardians. As a safety, his job was not always glamorous. He did not seek headlines. He did not chase attention. His role required discipline, sharp instincts, and complete trust in his teammates. He watched the field like a chessboard, reading offenses before the snap, anticipating movement before it happened. Drafted in 1971, Wagner joined a team that was building something historic. Under the leadership of head coach Chuck Noll, the Steelers were transforming from underdogs into champions. It was not just talent that fueled them, it was structure, accountability, and belief. Wagner fit that system perfectly. The Steel Curtain defense became one of the most feared units in NFL history. Quarterbacks hesitated. Running backs searched desperately for open lanes that simply were not there. And behind the powerful defensive line stood Wagner, calm and calculating. He was not the loudest voice in the locker room. But he was one of the most reliable presences on the field. Between 1974 and 1979, the Pittsburgh Steelers captured 4 Super Bowl titles. For times, they stood at the top of the football world. And Wagner was there for each championship run, contributing not only skill, but composure. In games where pressure could overwhelm even seasoned athletes, he remained steady. When the moment demanded focus, he delivered it. His interceptions shifted momentum. His coverage prevented disaster. His awareness protected the end zone like a final shield. Football fans often celebrate the visible heroes, the quarterbacks, the running backs, the players who score. But teams are built on balance. They are built on players who do their job with precision, even when cameras are not focused on them. Mike Wagner was that kind of player. Teammates respected him. Coaches trusted him. Opponents underestimated him at their own risk. There was something deeply symbolic about his role within the Steel Curtain. While the defensive line brought brute strength, Wagner represented the mind behind the muscle. He studied. He adjusted. He adapted. He understood that football, at its highest level, is as much about patience as it is about power. Off the field, he carried himself with the same quiet dignity. There were no dramatic headlines. No constant search for the spotlight. He understood that legacy is not built through noise, but through consistency. As the years passed and the 1970s dynasty became part of NFL history, Wagner's contributions remained etched in highlight reels and record books. But more importantly, they lived on in the identity of the franchise itself. The Steelers' culture of discipline and defense, the belief that championships are earned through unity, was shaped by players like him. When fans speak of the golden age of Pittsburgh football, they remember the steel-gray uniforms, the cold winds at Three Rivers Stadium, and the defense that seemed almost unbreakable. They remember a team that did not bend under pressure. And somewhere in those memories, Mike Wagner stands quietly in the secondary, scanning the field, ready. His passing is not only the loss of a former athlete. It is the loss of a symbol from a defining era of American football. A time when the game felt raw and grounded. When loyalty to one team meant something lasting. Mike Wagner did not demand to be called a legend. He simply did his job, again and again, until the results spoke for themselves. 4 Super Bowl rings. A dynasty secured. A standard set for generations to follow. The steel curtain may belong to history now, but its spirit lives on every time a defense takes the field with discipline and pride. And in that enduring legacy, Mike Wagner remains what he always was, the silent guardian.